What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the Wells Fargo Championship. Rocking my Sixers jersey. Game 1, a half an hour away. I can't believe it's April 30th, by the way. We're about to see all those "it's gonna be May" Justin Timberlake memes, but I don't know. I was more of a Backstreet Boys guy. I thought they were gonna rule until like the year 3000, but I guess not. All right, a week off. A lot to go through. Let's not talk about boy bands any longer. Couple things. Last week at the Zurich, pretty cool event. I didn't watch much of it. Had my gallbladder removed. Appreciate all the support on Twitter. A lot of you guys sent me nice messages. I really do appreciate that. Feeling much better. Thank you. The perfect week to take off, to jump right into the Wells Fargo Championship, and there's a lot to talk about. This is going to be played at Quail Hollow, and we're going to have to talk a lot about this week. Quail Hollow has been the host of the Wells Fargo Championship for a long time. So we would normally be licking our chops for course history this week, but we cannot necessarily do that. If you remember last year, Quail Hollow was the host site of the PGA Championship, which means it was not used for the Wells Fargo Championship. They went to Eagle Point instead. So for our 2017 course history, or tournament history, that's Eagle Point. 2016, 15, and 14 are all Quail Hollow, which is good. But the problem is, in anticipation of the PGA Championship, they made a lot of changes. So the course that these players saw in 2016, 15, 14, whatever, has changed. So I'll just read you a little bit of a snippet here that I have that I think is a really good idea of what they've done, amongst other things. A number of changes this year. Let's see. The first hole is now a 495-yard par 4. The par 3 second and the par 5 fifth, those holes are gone. 2 new holes have been added, the par 3 fourth and the par 4 fifth. On the backside, the par 4th 11 has been lengthened by 40 yards. It now plays as a par 71. It's going to be very difficult. So they have turned this into essentially a host site for a major championship. That's what it was last year, where it played very difficult, one of the hardest courses on the tour. And I don't imagine it will be that difficult this year, but it's still going to be much more challenging than we've seen from other Wells Fargo championships. They probably won't have it as dry, as fast, but there still will be challenges out there. It's a much more difficult course. So what have I done for this week? I've added another column to my cheat sheet. And if you're new, this cheat sheet is available on dfsondemand.com, like all the rest of the tools that I've created here. So I have our normal tournament history here, 2017, 16, 15, and 14. But then I also threw in the players' results at the PGA Championship last year, which was at Quail Hollow. So I would prefer to lean a little heavily on last year's PGA results, because I think the course this week is going to most accurately reflect that week. So that's what you're looking at here. A lot to digest, but let's jump right into it. So 152 players in the field, 4 guys over $10,000, led with the odds-on favorite Rory McIlroy. No shock here whatsoever. Rory has been dominant here at the Wells Fargo Championship. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. 7 starts, 2 wins, a second, a fourth, an eighth, a 10th. So 7 starts, 6 top 10s, including 2 wins. He did miss the cut once. I think we can cut him some slack there. And then he finished 22nd at the PGA last year. If you are going to fade Rory or fade a guy who is 6-1 to win, this might not be a bad week to do it. You know, from watching this, I'm a pretty big Rory guy. I will have enough exposure of him. He won the Arnold Palmer, great finish at the Masters. If we're leaning heavily on our PGA Championship results last year, the only time Rory has seen this course in its current condition in tournament format, right? He finished 22nd. I don't want to pay $11,800 for a 22nd place. However, it's Rory McIlroy. I will have plenty of exposure. Honestly, the next 2 guys, Justin Thomas and Ricky Fowler, I will just try to find out who's going to be lower owned. I might hop over to Fanshare Sports, which is a site that, it tags sentiment around the industry. I might just try to rely on them to let me know, who's going to be higher owned here. They're essentially the same price. Both have played well recently. Ricky's been a little more volatile. Both have decent history here. JT won the PGA last year. Ricky Fowler finished 5th. I mean, these are essentially a toss-up here. I will just take whichever guy is lower owned or who I think will be lower owned. Jason Day at 10,002. He's my guy. I will be the most overweight on Jason Day compared to the rest of the field this week, I imagine. And this might take a few minutes. This might be a really long video, by the way. But this might take a few minutes to kind of go through my thought process here. So Jason Day, I imagine a lot of players are going to opt for one of the big three, right? One of the three guys over 11,000. If you do that, you probably can't get one of those three and Jason Day into your lineup. I haven't tried making lineups yet, but that's my assumption. He has not played the Wells Fargo Championship since like 2012. He had a T9 on the old course. But a great showing with a top 10 at the PGA last year at Quail Hollow. I kind of got into a rabbit hole and I was thinking, Jason Day always seems to play well on difficult golf courses. And I was like, damn, like how can I figure out if that's true? Like, this is my guess. I don't know if it's true or not. So this is real behind the scenes. Okay. This is not even published yet. I will publish this at some point. I was legit just making this visual like 30 minutes ago. I will publish something like this in the near future because I think it's a really good idea. What I did is I created just a few visuals based around what I thought were the hardest courses. So I took, there's 14 courses that play 0.75 strokes over par or harder last year. So it's the majors, it's Quicken Loans National, it's the Northern Trust, it's the Memorial, it's the Arnold Palmer. You can see the list down here at the bottom. Valero Texas Open, it's the Farmers because of Torrey Pines. So that's the list of tournaments. Quail Hollow was the most difficult last year. And I went back 4 years, okay? So I took all those tournaments and I went back 4 years. Everyone in the field is right here, ranked by DraftKings points. Rory McIlroy, head and shoulders above the field, averaging 80 DraftKings points. Jason Day's number 2, 70.01 in 35 starts. If we remove the fact that they have to be in the field, only Jordan Spieth separates Rory and Jason Day. Okay, so Jason Day's up there. You see a couple other names we'll talk about in a second. The point being, Jason Day is a guy who has flushed difficult events, like absolutely destroyed them. He's elite in this category. I might bet him outright too. If he's 18-1, absolutely elite. He's always always a little under-owned, always a little underappreciated because he doesn't play that much. So only 3 starts since, like, what was that? Pebble Beach, right? I mean, no worse than a 22nd in any of them, but just, like, never plays enough to get on a lot of people's radar. I'm going to be, like, bashing the crap out of Jason Day this week. Just seems to be a really good fit here. Seems to be a really good fit at similar courses, difficult golf courses. 10,200, I think he's going to be in sandwich pricing. I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to get him. So he's definitely on there. All right. Let's run through some more of these. Patrick Reed will be popular, right? Coming off the Masters win, second place here last year. I always am fine with Matsuyama because he hasn't played enough and he's always going to be under-owned. Tiger's in the field. Again, I'm kind of taking just an average weight approach. Let's see here. Who else is interesting? Tony Finau. Okay, I don't know if you saw him, but if we go back to that visual that I created, I also have this little scatter chart here so you can kind of compare against different price ranges. Tony Finau, in these events that I described to you, is averaging 60.4 DraftKings points in 31 starts. That is better than Justin Thomas in 2 more starts. He's 2 points better or a point and a half better in 2 more starts than Justin Thomas. And he is $3,000 cheaper. Guts out a 10th place finish at the Masters on that terrible ankle. Somebody asked me if he was healthy. He played the Zurich, right? Played pretty well. So he's obviously healthy, right? I don't think these guys tee it up unless they're pretty healthy. So I don't have any concerns about his injuries. Just seems to be another really good fit. Hasn't had a lot of success here at either version of Quail Hollow. A couple top 25s, 44th last year at the PGA. But man, this guy can play tough tournaments. Okay, Ryan Moore would continue to be pretty sneaky here. Two solid finishes in a row. Has had a couple of top 10s and a 13th place last year. Let's see. Brian Harmon is actually a past. So I like Brian Harmon a lot. He's a past winner here, and he played well after they redid it, right? So he doesn't have like that winner swag. I guess he does have that winner swag because technically he's the defending champion, but also played. Wait, I'm an idiot. He won at Eagle Point, but has success at Quail Hollow. This was already confusing me on the cheat sheet. But has success at Quail Hollow at the PGA Championship. He's never the type of guy that pops off on people's radars, but he's starting to put it together a little bit more recently. He had kind of a dull period after the really strong start to the the swing season or coming down the stretch last year. But a 5th place at a WGC event, a 23rd at the RBC in his last time out. Like, I could get behind Brian Harmon at $7,900 when he was a guy who was regularly priced over $10,000. A couple of months ago. Who else here? Shout it out if you see it. Molinari. If you want to go back to that, that would be fun. 2nd place here at the PGA. I don't mind Sean O'Hare. Where is he? Right here. Sean O'Hare, a much more volatile option, but 3 top 12s in his last 5 starts. In this price range, he's significantly underpriced, right? So his peers are 150 to 1, 200 to 1 to win this thing. He's 80 to 1, kind of similar with Schwartzel and these guys. He's underpriced, has been all right at both versions of Quail Hollow, the old one, 35th and 20th, and then a 33rd at the PGA. Who else might we have here? Okay. Let's go back to this new visual that I created and see if we missed anybody here. Adam Scott, I'm a believer that he's going to get right. Another guy. So this is back to that like hardest courses thing, right? Guys who play well on hard courses. And obviously they're really good names, but just trying to see who else might jump out here. Ollie and Trey Molinax playing well, obviously on a smaller sample size. Are there any real big like disappointments here, guys we would expect to be a lot higher? Not really. This is interesting. My goal for this is I'm going to try to create some more models like this that we can see each week. Maybe one for hardest courses, maybe one for easiest courses, maybe one for, who knows, long courses. Throw out your ideas. Actually, let's do that. Comment or tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand, or comment below what type of models we should create. Then I'll create these for those different type of situations. And let's go over to the tour stats here. So if you're new to this, I run a regression model each week to see which PGA Tour stats correlate best with DraftKings scoring. So I take the last 8 years of PGA Tour stats, last 8 years of DraftKings scoring, throw it into a pot, see what comes out. And these are the 5 stats that correlate most with Quail Hollow. So I used 2016 and back at Quail Hollow for the Wells Fargo Championship, and then I used PGA Quail Hollow. So that's what you're seeing here. Okay, so it's the last 8 years, but it's different tournaments and different conditions. Take it for what it's worth. SFDA doesn't surprise me because it's a very difficult course. This is that stat where it's a strokes gained stat essentially against the field, but it's per round. So guys who play in similar conditions, that's on here. It takes into account a lot of that stuff. I actually really like this stat. But what you do is you tend to find a lot of the really good players dominating this stat category. So we get 4 guys over 9,000. But Webb Simpson does pop out here. Tony Finau on here. I mean, Tony Finau really shows up a lot as a guy who can compete in tough courses and big events. Like, is he just knocking at the door to win again? It certainly feels like it. He's in here. Birdie or better is almost always going to be in here because it's so heavily weighted in DraftKings. Bryson DeChambeau actually pops off in a few of these stats as well. For only 8,000, he's probably going to be a guy who makes a lot of my lineups. Grayson Murray, if he played better on par 5s, he'd probably make a lot more of my lineups. Here's par 5 scoring. So we want the lower numbers, obviously. There's DeChambeau, who actually leads the field in par 5 scoring. Pretty impressive. $8,000. I think that's a pretty good deal. Then you get some of these longer hitters, like a guy like Kevin Tway, but he doesn't really help in many other of these categories. But if you're looking for one, maybe a flyer at $6,600, he could be your guy. Molinax does pop off a couple of times too. We've seen him knock on the door recently. Strokes gained approach. All right, let's see here. Actually, Tiger shows up here, which is pretty interesting. Tiger shows up here a lot because he's going to show up in the next one too. The only problem I have with Tiger is he's not making a ton of birdies right now. I will have general exposure to him like I would any other player not named Tiger Woods. Like I don't buy into just like the Tiger thing. But he does pop off on probably like 3 of these stats. I just wish he was making birdies at a higher clip right now. Maybe that changes here soon. Who else is on here? Actually, James Hahn is on here. He's a past winner, right? And he won it. He won it the last time it was at Quail Hollow. So he's almost like the defending champ there. So I could get behind him at $7,800 for a few shares. And then so bounce back was a good one. So this was a big one. And probably because of how difficult this course played at the PGA, we're seeing bounce back be a stat that correlates. So how often does a player make a birdie after they've made a bogey on the previous hole? Tiger actually #1 in the field, and it's not really that close. Dominates that stat. So he comes in 34% of the time. Let's see. This is a nice little stat because it's like, you know, you don't want guys who just are continuing to make like multiple bogeys in a row, right? Where they're just like absolutely killing you. Tiger can make a bogey and bounce back. He gets it right back. Jason Day's on here too. Actually, let's actually sort this by salary. Sorry, it's a long video, but I think it's worth it. Let's sort it by salary and see what we've got here. Justin Thomas dominates a lot of these categories. So maybe just looking at this, if I needed a tiebreaker against Ricky Fowler, maybe this is it, because JT just absolutely crushes all of these categories that we've deemed to be important, which also makes sense because he's won here, or he won the PGA Championship last year. Jason Day fits a lot of these elite at SFDA, pretty good birdie or better numbers. Actually loses strokes approaching. I want to go back and take a deeper look at this and look at that trend over time, because remember he hit that rough patch where essentially like he was real rusty. He wasn't playing a lot. His mom was going through some stuff, and his PGA Tour stats took a hit. So he's one of these guys where I'm not always sure if we should take that much consideration into them, just because he did take a hit for a time. I want to go back and see if there's a trend, if he's trending upwards or trending downwards in that scenario. Who else here? So we're looking for those blue categories. Stuart Sink was elite at strokes gained approach. Adam Scott. Man, Adam Scott's going to get my dollars at 7,300. I just know it. I haven't made a single lineup yet, and I just know he's going to get my dollars. All right, let's jump back to the cheat sheet here, and we'll wrap this up with the odds section like we always do. So just trying to find out players that might be a good value. So let's see what we've got here. Alex Noren at 33 to 1, a little bit cheaper than Webb Simpson, who's also 33 to 1. These look pretty solid here. Phil, $500 cheaper than Patrick Reed, same odds to win. Tiger Woods, $300 cheaper than Hideki Matsuyama, same odds to win, but Tiger's odds are always a little wonky. Paul Casey, $8,900. That's a pretty good price for him. Luke List. Okay, so, man, I wish I had more time to talk about this. We should do like an hour show. Luke List, chalk last week absolutely destroys everyone. Didn't play well here at the PGA last year, missed the cut, but man, 50 to 1 to win, and he's $1,100 less than Ryan Moore. We loved him last week, right? The entire industry was on him last week. Why would we hate him after a missed cut? There's this idea where everyone's just going to jump right off of him because he was chalk and he missed the cut. I wonder what his ownership is going to be. $7,400, man. That is so cheap for a guy that was just the industry chalk last week. Daniel Berger will be popular, but according to this, he's a little overpriced. I don't see any egregious ones. Or actually, I guess I should say, I mean, between the 80s and the 90s, like Russ Henley's $8,200, 80 to 1. Lucas Glover's 90 to 1. Not that big of a difference. $6,800. That's a pretty big range. We don't usually see them that big. All right. I think that's it. We'll stop it there at 22 minutes. Do me a favor. Tweet me or leave a comment below on some of those models that you want to see. Hardest courses, easiest courses, bombers, tracks, second shot, whatever you want to see. Let me know. It's at DFS On Demand on Twitter, or leave a comment below. I'll talk to you guys soon. Best of luck.